Welcome everyone, this is Pineleaf News and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Harry Adwin.
Hi.
Ah, the loyal member. Yes,
It's you and me, Pine.
Yeah, just the two of us. And we get to discuss the latest update that we have. Update 23.2 or something like that.
I think that's what it was. Yay.
Yay.
I mean, they put in a raid and then it broke, so it's hard to get excited about it.
Well, I'm wondering, how often do we get a new raid and it managed to stay up for the entire first week?
I don't know, because I haven't really paid attention, but...
Okay, you got a point there, because I have to admit that I only noticed it because I keep a watch on the dev tracker and the thing. There's that, hello, our rate is down. Because they don't give the reason. They said a bug is found. That's usually Standing Stone speak for somebody found an exploit. Or at least that's my guess. I mean, it could be that there was some other bug, like the quest sometimes breaks or something like that.
That happens.
Yeah, either one of those can happen. I know some people inevitably in the forums were discussing things like Standing Stone should not have a beta for the raid because it gives anyone who does the raid an unfair advantage when it comes over to the live servers, and Standing Stone's not having the competition to be the first to complete it on the server is also unfair. The reason they removed the competition for it partly is because of the betas, but if they don't have betas, if you think it's broken now, think how much more broken it would be,
right?
If they don't have a time on board. You know, that's the unfortunate thing, is doing a raid and getting out all the kinks in it.
Which, I mean, obviously it wasn't all of the kinks, it was part of the kinks.
Oh, okay. Getting most of the kinks out of it at least, but see, it's tough enough as it is, but even with the bull roar time, without it, I have a feeling there will never be another raid because I don't think they'd be able to get one perfect right out the box, because raids are a pain to debug, I'm pretty sure. Not that I've ever tried to debug a raid. Let's go into what's in here. The Anvil of Winterstith, though it is temporarily down, and there's a new raid, Anvil of Winterstith, which it opened up at 10 a.m. Eastern on Thursday, and I think it closed sometime around midday Friday?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Where you can venture into the air of an ancient frost dragon to prevent Karasgar, the Weeping Warrior, from adding the massive frost horde to his host. The multi-boss raids initially will be available in Tier 1 and Tier 2 difficulty, with Tier 3 unlocking in about a month. Whether that's a month from the update or a month from when they get it opened up permanently, I'm not sure yet. The raid also features time-limited titles to those brave, creative, and strong enough to succeed. That's what they decided to do, is to base the titles on how long, on those who do it within a certain amount of time, rather than being the first.
Interesting.
And they figure, all right, let's see how many people can do it within a certain amount of time. And I'm assuming that they are going to base this on what you could do without help of having done it on Bull Roar, so that those who waited actually have a chance of actually getting the title. Then, of course, there were also class changes. I think we discussed all of these pretty much last week.
Yeah, I think so.
Though fixed an issue causing Grimmuir's spirit buff to stop working on the caster used it on themselves. I can't remember if we mentioned that.
Yep, we did.
Okay. And I think everything is... Yes, that's pretty much what we were expecting in there. Though I do notice that I'm pretty sure this was in there. It said the Ornings can no longer use bows and barrel format. Can no longer shoot arrows out of their mouths.
What?
I think Sans commented on that when she was
overpowered furballs, man.
Yes, yeah. And empowered Mithril essences can now be crafted. And the icons for Figments of Splendor, Motes of Enchantment, and Embers of Enchantment have been updated to make them easier to identify at a glance. I admit I've not been looking at their icons closely enough to really be sure of that.
I still can't even remember which ones are supposed to be which, so...
Well, there is that. At least then on the main character that's been looking on the screen lately, I know it can't be Embers of Enchantment because my character's too low a level. Because I've been looking at them, maybe seeing if I can get anything with the figments that I have. I haven't actually bought anything with them yet. I just wonder, should I get a hobby horse or not?
Hobby horses are all the rage.
Yeah. Seeing how I didn't get one at the Yule Festival, there's always maybe I should go and try to get one. We'll see about that. In the LOTRO store, we mentioned that there will be count-wide mounts available for purchase, where you can get Steed of the White City, of the Hunter, Fleet-Footed Goat, Daggerlad, Green-Painted Skeleton Steed, Steed of the Minstrel, Steed of the Kundalar, Steed of the Iron Hills, and the Obsidian Steed, and those are now available for account-wide purchases in addition to the single character purchases that were already available.
Yeah, that was cool.
And I just have to see if there are any of them in there that jump out at me and say, hey, buy me, buy me. An Ironfold crafting tier is now available for purchase. Then quests and adventure areas, new Ironfold quests, and 9 the Slakeless has need of your assistance in the Ironfold. Players must have completed the Ironfold quest Lord of Iron in order to unlock this quest content, which begins in Beneath the Fold. These quests are level 120, and we'll discuss this later on in the show, since that ties into a letter that we received.
So Ready Player One in the chat said it's too bad they don't offer the red skeleton seed, then maybe Drac could get one. We actually talked to Drac about this at one point. We must not have done it on the show, but I know I've asked him this question, that if they had made it available for purchase, if he would buy it. And his answer was actually no.
His answer was no?
His answer was actually no, because I did ask him about it once.
All right. Then the quest chain, The Secret of the Council, has returned to Moria. Players can find the map somewhere within Moria's depths to begin the quest. And I think someone mentioned, I was discussing this, I believe, with you and Sans, was it? We're trying to figure out what this was. I think we concluded that this was some sort of thing that they had when they first released back when they first released Moria, and this is most likely going to be for the Legendary server's benefit.
Yes, that was our conclusion.
We will see that when Moria opens up on the Legendary server, which I think is still a couple of months away, I think, if they hold on to their 4-month schedule that they were provisionally saying they were shooting for. Then the weekly raid skirmish quests are once again able to be completed. This means that when you complete a skirmish raid, you will get 6 seals. Now, the only question I have is, what can you do with seals these days?
No idea.
Yeah, because I was looking at that. last night trying to. All right, so now I have these 6 seals because the first character of mine to get seals from a skirmish raid was one that had absolutely no seals on the character.
Now you have a whole 6 seals to go nuts with.
Right. Now, I do have my main who has seals back from before that quest had disappeared for a while. But I still say, okay, what do I do with these things? Alright, yeah, because it seems like there's absolutely nothing interesting that's in there, and if anyone knows of anything really nice, because there were, okay, I believe there were 1 or 2 things that you could use seals for from the legendary vendor in there, but unless you were really wanting to get a second age level 100 crafting item, because that's the only thing I could see in there where the seals actually had any benefit from my opinion. And if you're running a skirmish raid at cap, you really need a level 100 second age crafting item. So yes, if anyone knows of anything really neat that you can get with it, please either leave a comment or send a note to LOTRO Players News. And a placement issue with a water volume in the Withered Heath has been fixed. Alright. Brush has been cleared from the barrel of Taradin's entrance. I noticed that at one point. And stair placement has been adjusted in Thickelgundu's library. And the undiscovered Stablemaster vendor icons are no longer called by dynamic particles rendering settings. I'm sure a lot of people are happy about that. And updates have been made to the French and German character creation user interfaces. And known issues: the Anvil of Winterstiff Bestowal Dialogues incorrectly states that the quest resets every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. The quest only resets on Thursdays, though at the moment it's moved.
Because it's closed.
Because it's currently closed. But when it's open, it will reset on Thursdays. Which probably explains why they chose to open the raid on Thursday, even though the patch went up on a Wednesday.
Right.
And that's it for our patch notes. So let's head into the beacon, where we are looking at a nice mountainous scene and snowy. And you could look at the newest outfit of Forhill Herder from Wandering Around Arda, as you could find out how to get the look. Yeah, that makes all these nice, wonderful winter things that make me shiver. And you get to watch the 5th annual Taking the Hobbits to Isengard stream, including concerts by the DHS and Notzensalber, hosted by Druid's Fire. And on Saturday, well, okay, that's already happened. And you can watch the Breakfast Club performance that was done on January 5th on Langeville. We have a link to that YouTube video of that, and you can watch the Breakfast Club performance from there. That's what I just said. And Palunli has created a new music video entitled Take My Heart. And of course, there is a link to that in the beacon. The Late for 11s is a small community of Hobbit role players, crafters, and all-around friendly folk that call Laurelin home. They welcome fellow Hobbit lads and lasses of all levels and classes. Anyone interested in that kinship could contact Webelo and Wilfrost in-game. Here comes our weekly comment. What has been your most favorite part of Yule this year?
I didn't really do it. I feel really bad. I've been terrible about festivals this year, and Yule's another one that I did it with girls, a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't really done it since then.
I think the one thing that helped me on this year's Yule was that it was a little bit longer than usual, which meant that despite the fact that I was rather late in deciding to actually do it, because I haven't traditionally done much on festivals in the last couple of years, that I decided, alright, I'm doing this character on Honor that's supposed to be trying to be completionist and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And after the festival is well underway, I finally decided, alright, maybe I better see how much of this festival I can actually do. And I don't think I would have been able to finish the entire huge outer cycle unless the Yule Festival had been extended. So it allowed me to complete that cycle for the first time on any of my characters.
Well, and you know what you can do now with your surplus of tokens? You can not kill yourself for the rest of the festivals, because you can swap out your surplus of tokens for the boxes that give you tokens for other festivals.
Yes. I noticed that I can also do that with those badges of taste that I got while running errands for the Inn League.
Yes. But stock up on the badges, because I think you need them for the goat.
Well, there is that.
Or is it a pony? Is it a pony for the Inn League?
I thought it was a pony.
I do Ale Association, so it's a goat.
Well, the Ale Association, it would be a goat. For the Inn League, it'll be a horse/pony. Because dwarves versus hobbits. In the fan site news, we have video links to Uger's epic adventures on Brandywine, to the Othali Good Company with Mushwi, part 149 of Gameo Leodan's Let's Play series, and Mythgard of Middle-earth with the Tolkien Professor, Flights of Fancy with Wayward Plane, Louis 7 with Garwin in Questing, The Road Goes Ever On with Gravity, and A Bard's Bagpipes and Battles with Doug Glendower. And our screenshot of the week is posted by Favier. And this is taken in Bree, well mounted, and wearing a very, very familiar outfit.
I can't imagine why that looks familiar to you, Pineleaf. And somebody's used the flower petal thing on them.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether someone used flower petals on them or whether she had some way of doing that or what.
I suppose she could have maybe used it on herself, but that's the flower petal effect.
And that is the beacon for this week. So let's go and look at a new release that we have. The soundtrack has been released, and there is a link in the show notes to a YouTube playlist that has 38 different tracks of various things, of hearing some wonderful music by Darth Celtic.
Yeah. I was so excited when I saw this in the launcher yesterday. Because I've been saying this whole time how awesome it is.
Yeah.
The Update 23 soundtrack. And so being able to listen to the whole thing on YouTube just kind of made my day. It's somewhere around a little over 2 hours worth of music.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's a lot of music to be doing.
Also, track 18 is my favorite track. It's the one track that
18.
Yeah, that's the one that I always end up humming because it plays right in Scarhald.
All right.
I think it's called Memories of Tharasar or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's the Scarhald. Yeah, it's the exterior Scarhald soundtrack, is what it is, and it's awesome. You get a whole very epic dwarvish feel from the whole thing. So
yeah, so be prepared for 2 hours of listening when you start clicking that. Or, of course, you could also always play individual tracks if you want. The tracks go from 536, the longest. So there's a 603. There's a 10. Oh,
Yeah.
Karazgar's Promise is 955. Yeah, that's the longest. Okay, so just under 10 minutes is the longest of the tracks, while you have some others that are, of course, a lot shorter than that, down in the 220 range and the like.
yeah, I think 5 minutes is pretty average, though, for a lot of them, I noticed.
Yeah.
Which is why with 38 tracks it winds up being like 2 hours.
I think you get a lot of 5 minutes because on the landscape, just regular landscape music, you could do what you want, but when you're in a instance or something like that, there are probably certain points where they want some dramatic feel, and so a particular track is written in order to fit in with whatever's happening at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the soundtracks to give you some listening. And next we have our store sales. And what's on sale this week?
Housing stuff. 25% off through January 17th. Select housing decorations, select housing sets, housing property writs, select cloaks, and the weekly coupon gets you a Tome of Tracking ×1, like we ever use those because we travel with hunters, with coupon Track Tome now through January 17th. So if you don't have a pocket hunter, this one's for you.
Maybe I should get that for my Honor character.
I never remember to use them.
Well, yeah, that's the main problem on there, is that I do have a habit of forgetting to use it.
Because you get that one as part of the Mirkwood Epic, and I think I've got a stack of, 5, 6, 7 of them. I never use them. Even on characters that don't travel with a pocket hunter.
Alright, I will have to agree with you on there, because I think I have used them on 2 or 3 times. At least the Drownholt compasses I've used on a couple of occasions, but... Right. Certainly not enough times to go beyond the number of fingers I've got.
I think I used one once.
Desperate to find something.
Yeah, I don't even remember what it was. And I don't think it worked properly either, because I was looking for a critter, and the Drownholt compasses only work on men.
Yeah, I think the Tome of Tracking at least works on more than that.
Yeah.
But yes, the Drownholt compasses are... I think the first time a lot of people use the Drownholt compass, they forget to read the fine print and say, "Oh, I didn't find the critter I was looking for." Let's head into our site news, and today we have another article by Squirrel, who takes an eagle flight of LOTRO's 2018, where he quickly goes upon the various highlights that we had during the year. And a lot of that stuff was out with the old and in with the new, where we had overhaul of things like classes and landscapes and instances and damage systems and mobs and all this stuff. And they were saying it would make things easier in the long term was one of the reasons for it, but I have a feeling another reason for it was legendary servers, so they could get the low levels all fixed up.
Yeah.
So I would say between those two things, probably a lot of the early stuff might have been for long-term work, but then there's more push on getting stuff at lower levels fixed up in time for the legendary servers there. Then, of course, we had our tail end of Mordor stuff. And then we had Update 22 Northern Mirkwood. And that was, well, elves. And I know you spent a lot of time with elves there, and I heard a lot of time with you complaining about elves.
Thrainville didn't have snacks.
That is right. No snacks by the elves. Then you were happy then when we reached the dwarves, I guess. I don't know how you felt about the Dale lands, but you sounded happy when we got to the Dwarven lands. I think you probably at least were happy when we reached the Dale lands because it meant you didn't have to worry about the elves anymore.
Yes. And actually, I like the dwarves. I liked all of the dwarves until Update 23 and we got Zelruka.
Yeah. Then we had the Lay of Rust and Rime.
Which was awesome, because dragons!
Yeah, dragons. Yes, that was a real nice series. It's saying that, yes, not all episodic content need to be lighthearted. Then we had the instances, the summer instance and the Yule instance that we had, where you had the summer picnic and then trying to get rid of invaders for the winter snowball fight. But tough instances.
Especially on the group level.
Oh, yes, I have run those on several times. Oh, that's right, because I think on Friday we're running it with. Were we running it with 3 or with 4? If we're running it with 4, it must have been 3 because I think I would not have run it close to on level if we're running it with 4 because.
Because I actually ran it with Terry. Because I was curious to see if she would experience the difficulty that the girls had trying to run it.
Yeah.
I didn't have any trouble doing it on Terry.
Well, yeah, but there's a reason for that.
Champion.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, even though people always, I think you get some flack for running Redline. I think you run Redline very, very well, and
well, I know what the heck I'm doing in Redline.
Yes. So because you run that through very, very well on there, because I know I find it. Well, I think I could get through it on the solo mode. It's just that I feel like it takes a long time in doing so. Then we had Update 23, Arid Mithrin. Dwarves, Dragons, Dwarves, and Bjornings. Well,
the less said about the bears, the better.
Yes.
Stupid bears.
Yes, we'll be having a review episode of that in the near future. Then, of course, the big surprise of 2018, the Legendary server, which is the first new server that we had in LOTRO since the launch of free-to-play. Because we had a large number of servers added back then in order to handle the expected influx of the crowd there. Then we had the Legendary servers, though, where they came in there and said, all right, we'll have there, let's see how this works out. We'll put up one Legendary server. 6 hours later, well, okay, we have 2 Legendary servers.
Yeah.
That was a very quick, okay, and maybe we need 2 of them. And I think that so far we've had it up for 2 months up so far, and I've been playing on there, and I think you haven't been, or you've been doing minimally if you have been on there, as far as I know.
I made a character, but she didn't make it past the starter instance.
Yeah.
I mean, she finished out the starter instance, and that was pretty much all I needed to do.
You have plenty of the characters on the main servers to
I do
handle. Yes. And then we had class and ratings revamps all over the place. and I know that there were plenty of, well, some buffs and some nerfs and all in there, and they said that there will continue to be more in the future. For example, I'm sure the burglars are still hoping for that buff that they were supposed to get last time. The one where I think where they say, okay, here's a nerf and here's a buff. Oh, oops, the buff didn't get in.
But the nerf did.
Yeah, the nerf did.
Yeah. It's a bit challenging being a Berg at the moment.
Well, if I remember correctly, though, the nerf was on something not stacking, I think was the big part of that. So therefore, if you're playing solo or in a small group where you only have one Berg, I don't think it mattered that much. Though we wouldn't mind a buff of something or two in some point in the future. I am running a burglar in a YouTube series, so I've been running into that a bit lately. Let's see. And, of course, return of the crease and departure of the freeze. This is talking about how lately, I don't know what it is right now, but I think the last I heard the crease were still above the game, or have the freaks caught up already?
No, I believe that the balance is still in the creep favor.
Right, and a couple of months after the release of an update with the creeps, with a little bit of an advantage up there, is rather unusual in recent years.
Enjoy it while it lasts, guys.
Enjoy it while it lasts. We're sure that when update 24 comes out, we'll find out what happens. Alright. And some quick bits that he discussed. Filter system allows us to choose loot, quests, and sounds that we never want to see again. I know that you've taken quite a bit of advantage of that one.
Oh, yes, I have. I don't ever have to hear Devodiad ever again. So happy. Kizinek is going to be the next thing that gets filtered. You watch.
Yeah. And if you'd miss a festival that you never had to worry about, in 2018, many of the festivals had encores to them, which helped a bit on there. Now, this year's Yule Festival that we just having is, they're not currently planning an encore that may change because they had a longer than usual festival instead. So it's
right.
So they at least not originally were not planning to have a encore. If people are screaming for it, they may change their mind, but don't count on it necessarily. And grabbing a quest log full of dailies at the start of an empty quest log in December with a ton of instances for everyone to do. LOTRO had two opposites with the higher levels of 2018. I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about there.
I don't know.
Yeah, alright. Perfecting old systems such as loot boxes and Ash while introducing new gearing, in other words, tweaking that again. And renewed marketing, a new leveling experience for every class, and the legendary server. The world once again knew LOTRO existed. And of course, as usual, bugs. I know we wish they could squish them out someday.
It happens.
Yep. It happens. And of course, LOTRO excelled in what they have always done best. Quests, landscapes, and stories were created in every stage of the year, while they doubled down on getting LOTRO ready for the next decade, and sometimes wishing that they would just stop with a new, polished clean of the previous changes that they've made. I guess he's got tired of some things that they changed. So, yes, that is overall his review in what happened during the year of 2018, and hopefully soon we'll get a producer's letter so that we could look ahead at what's in store for 2019.
It's still early.
Yeah, it is still early in there, and I know that they are working on it, trying to make sure it says what they want to say, and then of course, once they do that, they have to make sure that it says what they want to say in 3 different languages.
Yeah, that's always one of the harder things to do, is you've got to make sure it gets translated.
Because every once in a while, if you're not careful, there will be mistranslations. And our pick of the week are the winners announced for the Yule Cosmetic Contest for 2018. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yes.
Father Christmas for first prize.
Yeah, it was a great outfit. 2 dwarves and a hobbit were the winners for the... So we talked about this a couple weeks ago because it was in the Beacon that they were doing the contest. And then I noticed it didn't make the Beacon because it actually didn't get announced until after the Beacon came out, that the winners were announced. So I thought I would go ahead and feature it as our pick for the week, because I do follow the cosmetic blogs.
Yes. Well, that first place winner very definitely deserves it. That's a great outfit.
It is. It's a great outfit.
Then let's head into our week in LOTRO. And Terry, what were you up to?
Well, I had a bit of a light week this week. But Axley and friends completed the Mirkwood landing, so they are ready to properly start Mirkwood.
Yay!
We ended up with homework at the end of the session because there's a solo-only instance where you finally get Mazog into Mirkwood. I suppose I should put a spoiler warning on that, except, that content is really old now, so...
Really old? Yeah. We're talking about 7 or 8 years.
Do I really need spoiler warnings at that point? Yeah, so we've got to deal with that. This quest line is honestly one of my least favorite storylines in LOTRO, just because well, no, it's more that no matter what you do, the elves are going to get snippy with you, and so I'm playing a dwarf, and actually is really super against elves right now, because it doesn't matter what he does, the elves are sniping at him for something. So there's a lot of back chat that goes on between me and the NPCs, which I think just kind of amuses everybody else in the group. Because, I've said repeatedly that I don't really roleplay in LOTRO, and I don't really roleplay in LOTRO, but my characters wind up with voices anyway. So as I'm going through quests, I'm going to talk back to the NPCs if they're insulting. And yeah, there's lots of that going on in Mirkwood because elves. And then Sarissa, my burglar, continued questing in Wildemore. She's actually gotten pretty far in Wildemore. And she's nearly halfway through the Balewood. And this is so she's not just doing the epic story, she's actually doing all of the quests too. She's about halfway done. She did the Nurzum session play right before the show, which, by the way, is still really awesome. So, yeah, again, probably should have put a spoiler warning on it, except, again, it's really old content. So, if you haven't done it yet, just forget I said anything. But, yeah, Nurzum session play. You only have 3 skills as Nurzum, but you know what? You only need 3 skills as Nurzum.
Yeah. Well, there is that. Yeah.
It's so much. So again, I don't roleplay in LOTRO, but my characters wind up with voices, and it's kind of fun being a burglar in Wildemore because they're like, do this noisily, and it's kind of a turnaround because sometimes they're like, don't attract any attention, and it's like, okay, I got this, except for my champion characters who are like, wait, what? And so now it's the reverse is true. Go kill orcs and be really noisy about it. And it's like, wait, I'm a burglar over here. Yeah. So, Pineleaf, how was your week?
All right, we'll begin with my Crick Hollow burglar.
Speaking of burglars.
Yes. Who arrived in Stangard and went all around Stangard and performed lookout duty and all that fun stuff. Now, this thing where you go into Stangard, I tried to decide, alright, should I do the Stangard quest first, or should I follow Bingo Boffin out? I figured, okay, I best follow Bingo Boffin later, because I think I really want to do the quest with Langerville before I continue with Bingo. So that's the way I'm feeling on that matter. So I'll most likely wait until I've gotten done with the Stangard quest before following Bingo around. Then on Honor, I completed my quest in Breland, which meant I finished up the Southern Barrow Downs and managed to complete a huge number of deeds. But I decided to draw the line when I killed a spirit in one of those rep instances.
Uh-huh.
Instances, reputation dungeons. I went in there, killed a spirit, and it says, new deed. 1 out of 60. Sorry, I am not killing 180 spirits. This is technically a small fellowship dungeon anyway. So even though I killed did executioners of the wicked, and that I managed to kill Barrow Warrens, which are also technically in the same small fellowship dungeons, I decided, no, I am not going to kill 108 spirits, because that will be ultra tedious, because there are very few dungeons that have those things, and they're all signatures. And they do not feed into the meta deed for Breland.
Yeah, there's that.
There is that. Maybe someday I'll come back and just whack them on the head, but for the time being, I've said, nah, I am just not going to do that at the moment in there. Therefore, I decided to continue along with the epic storyline and did the section of the epic that takes you to the Weather Hills. So I did a couple of quests in the Weather Hills, the ones where you're helping the camp near the wolves. That camp that is a little bit too dangerously close to those level 55 mobs that no one on the server is going to have an easy time against. Okay, the 50s might not have too much trouble, but anyone below level 50 will have some trouble with them, of course. But I did those quests, then I did, of course, did Candidate's quest for the epic there. And that's where I'm breaking off from the Lowlands, because I'm not going to do the rest of the Lowlands until I get there with Bingo Boffin. And the next episode that's to be released from Bingo Boffin is the one that's going to eventually end at the Forsaken Inn. So I'm getting pretty close on that matter. So since I wanted to continue doing questing, though, with that character, I went into the North Downs, and I did all of the quests that are west of the river. So if you think of the North Downs as being in 3 sections, the west of the river, the central area, Kingsfell and the like, and then the stuff that's east of Vistaldine. So I did the western third of that, which included Trestle Bridge, the Amon-Rite, and I even did that stuff up in Fornost.
The not fun stuff.
Yeah, because so I got through all of and of course at Meekim's camp, or where you have all those, where you go after all those spirits and the like. I still have deeds, of course, I need to do, because I do have to go back in there and kill Oathbreakers and the like, because there is a deed for the Oathbreakers. I mean, the Orc deed, I have plenty of other orcs. in the North Downs. I'm going to finish that one 3 times over.
Yeah, it's not like there's a shortage of orcs in the North Downs. That's true.
Yeah, and the Goblins ones, yeah, that's going to be easy to finish up also. But the Oathbreaker ones, I believe, up in the Fields of Fornos, Fields of Fornos, I think, is the only place where you have Oathbreakers in. Either in the Fields of Fornos or right next to them or the like. So I'll have to go back for those, of course. But other than that, I did finish quests. It turned out that the Western Third has enough quests in it that you're able to finish the Quest Deed Final.
Yes.
Right. It's certainly easy to finish that deed.
Yep.
A bit surprised there. It says, okay, you finished that section, now you have to do the Slayer deed and the exploration deed, but that'll take more time because I have to go into Dol Dinin and all places like that to finish up the last of those. Then, I also managed to complete 20 days of Yule Festivaling on that character. It's the first time I ever had a character complete 20 days on there. In other words, the entire cycle where you have to do 10 quests, 5 days, do it again, oh, and here's the final one. And it's the first character that finished that. Okay, I see what happened there. And this shows you how completionist this on our characters. I didn't think I was going to be doing festivals on this character, but it looks like I've done a lot of festival stuff on this character, alright. Then, on Friday night's fight on Landreval. Now, Friday night fights, though, they may have some question about what's going to happen with that, because it looks like in a couple of weeks they may occasionally be on Honor, but that's another thing. We'll see how that goes. But it's still on Landreval this week. We were running Friday night fights, and we were in a raid, and we wound up running 2 skirmish raids. The first one was the Battle of Deepway. Apparently a lot of people in that group had not done that in a raid before. So that was going all around in there. And we actually managed to get all the way through there. I'm trying to remember if anything really bad happened in that one. I do remember that we did have a few cases of deaths in there, but that's what happens in this particular case when you're running the skirmish raids, especially at level 120. And I think this is the first time we had a pretty close to all 120 group, because usually we've had a mixture of levels. Then, when we were running the second one, Stand at Amon Sul, we had 2 things interesting that happened in there. The first of them is that we had the encounter where you have this Umrathan come up, you kill the Umrathan, then it says you can attract a bigger one by lighting all the campfires.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it did that. We bring it up. Then the mob came in. We killed the mob, and all was going nice and fine. Then a little bit later, the next time, I lit all of the campfires. The 3 other versions of the encounter boss came up.
Oops.
They all came together. Now, since we were running the raid version, that meant it was the small fellowship, full fellowship, and solo versions that came up. So it wasn't as bad as when that bug happened. Every other time I had that bug happen, it was always when I was running solo or small group. So happening this time in a raid meant it wasn't as much of a problem because, alright, killing 3 copies of this was easy. In fact, getting rid of the solo version was, well, you can solo it. So we managed to survive through that. Now what happened though, of course, is the boss fight. Alright, we're fighting on the boss fight. We get the boss fight down, and apparently, I can only think that the ads must get some sort of super duper we are wanting revenge buff when the boss dies. At least in the raid version, because right after the boss died, the ads got super powerful and then wiped us out. The boss was dead! Yeah, so we didn't get our loot or anything like that because the candidates that died right after. That's right, we wiped, and of course, candidate was included in the wipes.
Of course.
Of course. And that is what I did this week, so let's head into news beyond LOTRO. And Fantasy Flight Games has announced the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth board game coming to Fantasy Flight Games sometime during the second quarter of 2019. And in this, shadows creep through the lands of Middle-earth as whispers of new evils in Mirkwood and Mordor spread among the free peoples of elves, dwarves, and men. As the shadow rises, with festering evil and corruption, new heroes are needed to protect Middle-earth. And this is a 1 to 5 player cooperative game of adventure and exploration. Now, I don't know any more details than this. It does have miniature figures, and it looks like it has hexagonal modules that are used in building its map. How exactly it works, we don't know yet. I'm sure we'll know in a few months. Maybe when it comes out, we can have a review of it or something like that. I mean, there's some aspects of it that vaguely remind me of the D&D adventure system, though the components look so different from it. It obviously isn't a literal copy of it or anything like that. And of course, we are talking about Fantasy Flight Games, so I'm sure it is going to be nice and overproduced. We currently have 21 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious array of players and help support LOTRO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There are final rewards, including a mention on the podcast, your choice, or you be guest with us for an episode of LOTRO Players News. And this week, we have an email from Glambold. And Terry, what does Glambold say?
So Glambold writes, "Hi, hoping you discuss this in the next podcast, but if not, can you discuss why the Howling Pit 3-player instance needs probably 200 Light of Arendelle at endgame when most players, such as myself, only have 80, and SSG stated that Light was not going to be used outside of Mordor?" Glambold, that's a good question. I don't have an answer for you because I haven't really looked at it.
Yes, I have attempted this. This is a new quest, this Iron Hill, the Iron Hills quest that was added that we discussed earlier in the patch notes. And to me it looked like it was only 100, but I could imagine that you're going in there not expecting there to be shadow in there, and you're suddenly finding it. That it could feel like it's 200. And I guess if he has 80, if he has a total of 80, then he will have 2 levels of that nasty dread stuff, or whatever they call it in the game in there. It is a painful... Now, I actually attempted to do this instance. I believe I had 98 light. So I was just short of being to the 100 you needed in order to be even off. I don't think a lack of light was my biggest problem in there. In fact, it looked like once I remembered to respec, because the first time I attempted it I had forgotten to respec and I was slaughtered. Because when you don't have any spec points spent. Really
Oops.
bad. Yeah, right. Because that was right after you're supposed to do all your specifications.
Right.
But once I figured out that I went in there, I went there again. It looked like all right. I got through the first wave. I got through the second wave, and during the third wave, I say, "Is it physically possible to run this solo?" It is marked as a small fellowship instance. In fact, not only is it marked as a small fellowship instance, but they talk about it being particularly challenging. So I thought, all right, can my best warden have any hope of soloing this? And I do want to maybe give it one more try before I say it's impossible, but I think there is a mechanic in this particular one that is going to make it impossible to solo. It was designed for 3, and I think that may turn out to be the case. I'm sure 20 people are going to write and say how they soloed this thing with a frying pan and not traded at all.
Because they always do.
Because they always do. But I'm hoping...
There's always one.
Yes. I'm hoping I will get an opportunity to run this with a group and see how it goes in there. Maybe we could allocate some time for that if we are able for next week. But we'll have to see. But anyway, that is a 3-player instance. It is a challenging instance. But I also found that it had some interesting, let's just say interesting mechanics in it, and I'll leave it at that. We don't want to give any spoilers to it right now because it is a very new item that was added, just been up for only a few days now. But why it requires light when most players have only 80? It increased the challenge, it sounds like. Now, I don't know I can't remember exactly what SSG said relating to light and outside of Mordor. But this instance, if there's a place out of Mordor, it did appear actually during the Black Book of Mordor when we were in Dol Guldur. But if there's a place other than Dol Guldur that's outside of Moria, where I would think to run into this shadow stuff, this location where we were at the time for this instance would be one of those rare places because.
Oh, does this have to do with that room in Yarnfest?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, it has to do with this room that has been locked. Actually, no. It depends which room you're talking about.
The room that we found that had to do with the runes and things. I don't want to say too much because spoilers.
Okay. Yeah, No, not that room. When you first said room, I was thinking of a different room in Yarnfest that it has to do with. This is a room that we had not been in before.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was talking about. We'll clarify it after the show because I don't want to spoil it for people.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil what's going on there. We'll see if we're talking about the same thing. But it does have something to do with a room in Yarnfest. We'll just leave it at that, but not go into any details of it.
Be all mysterious about it.
Yes. And thank you, Glenn Bold, for your email. And if you'd like to send us an email, you can send it to podcast at LOTROplayers.com, where you could talk about things like how you were able to solo this one with a frying pan. And you can also follow us on Twitter, the Players Alliance at Players Alliance, LOTRO Players at LOTRO Players, Arandes at Arandes, Pineleaf at Pineleaf, Senswinda at Senswinda, and Terry Edwin at Terry Edwin. The Players Alliance has 2 live shows every Thursday at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have DDO Players News, and every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News. You can join us for our live shows at LOTROplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight, and this is Pineleaf Eagles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.